Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Talk Soccer to Me podcast, an American soccer fan's perspective on the international game. My name is Jack Alt. I'm your host. We're going to be going over everything that has happened so far this summer in the world of soccer. We haven't really come out with an episode since May. I want to say May, when the season ended up right at the end of the Champions League and Premier League and all the other domestic leagues. Lots happened this summer. We've had a UEFA Nations League, a CONCACAF Gold Cup, a Club World Cup, and a Women's Euros, as well as several hundreds of millions of dollars worth of transfers that have gone through. And it's only July 30th, probably be August 1st or August 2nd by the time this episode comes out. So there will still be a lot in the transfer market that'll happen between now and then. But yeah, we're going to go over all that. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what happened, kind of like the point, were they worth watching, international performances, team performances, opinions, stadiums, weather, politics, the whole 9 yards, as it kind of was with all these events this summer. And yeah, but before we get into that, I just want to shout out our social media. It's at Talk Soccer to Me on Twitter and TikTok, at Talk Soccer to Me podcast on Instagram. We're listed on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Podcasts. I believe it's Apple Podcasts, not Apple Music. Essentially, anywhere you could listen to a podcast, we're listed there. So please take a listen, share it, let it know, comment, subscribe. Even if you got nothing nice to say it, because any interaction goes such a long way. But yeah, we're going to get into the episode today. One of my goals for this season is to have some sort of intro. So ideally right here is where some sort of music would be playing, but I don't have that for you today. Haven't figured that out. Haven't really decided to make a decision there. Eventually, I like to think I will. There'll be some music, some la-di-da, ha-ha. But until then, we got nothing for you. I'm just going to keep talking, keep yapping, and let you know everything that happened this summer. So as I mentioned previously, whopping 1 minute ago, there were 4 events this summer. And the first of those was the UEFA Nations League. In case you're not aware, not a big soccer fan, the UEFA Nations League is a European competition that UEFA came out with a couple years ago to kind of replace some of the meaningless friendlies in the international window. And this way, all the European teams can play each other in a competition. They're in 4 divisions, A, B, C, and D. And you can go up and go down. There's promotion and relegation. You do good, you can work your way up to A. If you do bad, you can fall all the way down to D. Again, UEFA was really just trying to get rid of the pointless friendly by having some sort of competition. And I think they've done it really well. It's where they've tied it into European qualifying, and it's given some lesser countries like Georgia and Macedonia, for example, opportunities to qualify for tournaments like the World Cup. And in, again, Georgia and Macedonia's instance, I believe it was the Euros. They qualified for the Euros through their Nations League qualification. So if they don't qualify through the traditional route of European qualification, they could qualify through the Nations League. And in that regard, I think the Nations League is a great idea. North America, with the CONCACAF Nations League, has mimicked it to an extent. I know at one point it was floated South American teams joining in. I'm frankly surprised the Asian Confederation really hasn't come up with a solution to that, but also Asian teams are much more spread out compared to Europe, North America, or South America. Australia could be playing Qatar, and the UAE could be playing South Korea, so that's very far for an international window. So in the A division, there's 4 divisions of 4, and the top 2 teams in each division play in a quarterfinals. I think that happened back in March. Yeah, that would have happened in March of this year. It was 2-legged. Germany beat Italy, Portugal beat Denmark, Spain beat the Netherlands, and France beat Croatia. So it set up a Final Four of Germany, Portugal, Spain, and France, and it was to be hosted in Germany. One semifinal in Munich, one semifinal in Stuttgart, final in Munich, third place in Stuttgart. First game in Munich, Portugal came out and defeated Germany. Germany scored first with Florian Wirtz scoring in the 48th minute, and then Francisco Conceição and the great Cristiano Ronaldo got 2 goals in the 60th minute for Portugal to win 2-1. Spain versus France was actually an insane game, probably the best game this summer throughout all the competitions. Spain took an early lead, pretty sizable early lead. They went 4-0. Goals from the likes of Nico Williams, Mikel Merino, Lamine Yamal, Pedri. Lamine Yamal actually got a 5th. And Spain was up 4-0 and then 5-1. France fought back a little bit. Goals from Randall Kolo Muani, Ryan Cherky, but it wasn't enough. Spain walked away 5-4. Kolo Muani's last goal was in the 93rd minute to make it from 5-3 to 5-4. So Spain defeated France. France defeated Germany 2-0 in third place playoff. I think they kind of, I wouldn't say they put out their B teams, but there was still plenty of good talent on both sides playing in that game. Again, France won 2-0, goals from Kylian Mbappe and Michael Olise. And then in the finals, Portugal and Spain 2-2. Cristiano Ronaldo scored again in the 61st minute. Really just proving Father Time wrong. Nuno Mendes, the fantastic left back, scored in the 26th minute, and then Spain's goals came from Martin Zubimendi and Mikel Oyarzabal. So it went to extra time, and then it went to penalties. Alvaro Morata missed his penalty for Spain, which I feel like has happened a lot. I feel like he did that in the Euro 2020 against Italy. And Portugal went through. They won 5-3. This was the second Nations League title for Portugal. I think they do this every 2 years, so I think this is their second all-time. I'm going to double check that. I did double check that. Last time they won it was in 2019. So yeah, Portugal won it. It was the first tournament of the summer. It was during the June international window before the likes of the Gold Cup and the Club World Cup. And it's going to be a recurring theme of this podcast, but I don't really see a point in the Nations League semifinal. I guess. It's another trophy. I get it's another trophy. And it's going to sell. They're going to sell seats. They sold seats in Munich. They sold seats in Stuttgart. It's going to make money. People are going to watch. The Spain-France game was out of this world. And yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be glad to put another trophy in his cabinet. The Portuguese people are going to be ecstatic beating Spain, beating Germany. But as a neutral, as someone who's not European, what's the point? I've never really felt the need to watch any of the Nations League semifinals or finals. I know if I have a sports podcast or soccer podcast, I have a duty to watch that, report on the game, and have an opinion. But for the neutral fan, for someone in Saudi Arabia or South Korea or Africa, South America, what's the point of them caring about this? I'm not going to hold this trophy in the same regard as a European Championship or World Cup. I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to do that. So what, are we just in this now realm of second tier international trophies? That doesn't make sense. I like the Nations League from a fundamental standpoint. I think it's really replaced the pointless international friendly, because there used to be plenty. The U.S. used to play in so many, and sometimes it's a good way to gauge talent. But I don't hate what UEFA's done, but at the end of a season, players are tired. There's more interesting things coming up this summer. It's gonna be hard for me to look at this and care. Oh yeah, let's turn on the game. I did, so I guess to some extent I'm a hypocrite. But obviously, as a fan of soccer, I'm always gonna turn on the game. This is gonna be repeated. It's gonna be a repeated point that I'm gonna make throughout this podcast. Is sort of what's some of the pointlessness this summer. There's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of pointlessness, a lot of redundant games. I know. Yeah, we're gonna get into that. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This was the first thing that happened this summer. So this is the big one, and it ended. And I don't really know if Portugal could say anything from this. Yeah. So then we just kind of went into the next round, the next tournament. And for that one, we're going to do the CONCACAF Gold Cup first. It was really held simultaneously as the Club World Cup, but it was a bit of a bigger tournament, so we're going to talk about that first. The Gold Cup was hosted on the west coast of the United States, and I think one stadium in Vancouver, Canada. Yeah, we had 3 stadiums in Texas, 4 in California, Missouri, Minnesota, Nevada, Arizona. 15 teams from CONCACAF and the invited guest, Saudi Arabia. Mexico was the title holders coming into this competition. Most of the big teams from CONCACAF qualified. Your Mexico, Canada, Panama, United States, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Honduras, Guatemala, etc., etc. The United States really did not take out their strongest team. And we're gonna loop back into that. So Mexico and Costa Rica got out of Group A. Canada and Honduras got out of Group B. Panama and Guatemala got out of Group C. And the United States and Saudi Arabia got out of Group D. It set up the quarterfinals where the United States got past Costa Rica on penalties. Guatemala got past Canada on penalties, which is a bit of an upset. Mexico defeated Saudi Arabia 2-0. Honduras defeated Panama on penalties. In the semifinals, the United States got past Guatemala 2-1 through 2 goals from Diego Luna. Raul Jimenez scored for Mexico in the other semifinals. They defeated Honduras 1-0. And then in the final at NRG Stadium in Houston, despite an early goal from Chris Richards, Mexico came back with a 77th minute goal from Edson Alvarez. Mexico defeated the United States 2-1 as they won another Gold Cup, their 10th Gold Cup. And I think as an American, if you're going to look at this game and what's important, it's two ways of looking at it. How well did our B team do under Mauricio Pochettino? And are we upset at the players who would be our 18 players, the Pulisic's of the world, for kind of like sitting out of this tournament and not participating? I know it drew some criticism, so let's talk about it. I think the U.S. did fine. I think Mexico overall was the stronger team. I didn't go into that final 3 weeks ago thinking that they had a chance. I was excited when they went up 1-0. And then I think for just the rest of the game, it was kind of all Mexico from that point out. Mauricio Pochettino, this is like his first major tournament. He's obviously going to be the guy that's most likely going to lead us into the World Cup in 2026. I can't say Mauricio Pochettino has done anything with this team that's like really impressed me. And I would flip it though. I wouldn't say there's anything that Pochettino's done that has led me to believe that he's going to not succeed as the United States men's national team coach. Unfortunately, it's just really hard to gauge how well they're going to do from, qualifiers, friendlies, and a Gold Cup, because the Gold Cup isn't what it used to be. And that's kind of the tie-in of this whole thing, is what's the point of the Gold Cup? I know it was the North American Championship, and for years it was, let's beat Mexico. Occasionally you'd have a scrappy team like Costa Rica or Jamaica or Canada give you fits. But there's one issue that I think, or one thing that's caused all these issues with the Gold Cup, and that's the United States and Mexico and other North American teams now regularly, and I think that's going to be how it is going forward, regularly playing in the Copa America. All the issues surrounding the Gold Cup have come from Copa America. The Copa America is a better tournament. You got Argentina, you got Brazil, you got all the elite teams from South America. It's definitely more entertaining. It's going to be better for the national team. It's a bigger tournament in every metric. It puts us on the same schedule as the European cycle, where they play the World Cup, and then 2 years later they play the Euros. So with knowing that in 2028 and 2024 we're playing in the Copa America, I don't really care how the United States does in the Gold Cup. Obviously, any game with the United States playing in it, I'm going to want them to win. But am I going to be devastated or super upset that they lost to Mexico in the Gold Cup? No, I don't give a shit. I frankly don't. It was a good opportunity for some guys, guys like Diego Luna or Patrick Algiman, to show what they can do. And they played really well. Algiman, like one of the coolest stories, a guy who was originally playing D3 soccer and now he's on his way to Derby County. And Chris Richards looked great, but we knew that. Guys like Matt Freese getting opportunity in goal. I think goalie is one of the things that the United States was so reliable for so many years, and going into 2026, I really don't know who our goalie's going to be. Guys like Brendan Harrison getting decent runs. Malik Tillman, Sebastian Berhalter. Tyler Adams was kind of, I feel like, the one guy who should have a spot in the A-team, who's, playing more. The A-team guy in this team. So yeah, that's the big issue with the Gold Cup. That's where I look at the Gold Cup and I'm like, who cares? I don't blame guys like Tim Weah or Weston McKennie or Christian Pulisic, Jedi Robinson, who just had long European seasons to go and play for this tournament. With that now that we're regulars in the Copa America, we got the World Cup next year. I'm not tripping over them not playing. And I know a lot of it's been like the issues with this golden in heavy parentheses because they haven't won anything, generation is like the laziness, the entitlement, and I get that. I do think they exude that to some extent because they've probably been hyped up since they were a little kid. They're making it in Europe in ways Americans have never made it in Europe before. I mean, Christian Pulisic has a Champions League medal, and they haven't done anything as a national team. They haven't succeeded. I'm not calling the round of 16 in 2022 wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. That's kind of where the United States should be based off previous generations. So it just to sum it up, I'm not looking too hard in this tournament. For me, this tournament is what kind of system is Mauricio Pochettino going to play with these players? How does he want them to play? And are there any guys in this kind of B plus squad that you can look at and be like, oh, I want them maybe featuring in 2026? Like, I love the way Diego Luna played in this tournament. You talk about heart, effort, grit. Diego Luna is awesome. He's the man. He is so fantastic to watch for the national team. I mean, I really feel like he's a guy who plays for the badge. He's a guy who cares more than others. But am I gonna look hard in this Gold Cup? No. Mexico had a better team. Mexico had a better roster. I believe it's pretty much confirmed the United States will be playing in the Copa America in 2028. So again, I'm just looping over myself here. I'm just repeating the same couple things I've been saying. I'm not too worried about it. It was a decent result. We didn't lose to anyone we should have. We played a couple games closer than we needed to, but there were good performances. Chris Richards is going to be our center back for a long time. I think he's phenomenal, and there were other players who impressed me. And, with it being on the West Coast and late, I didn't watch the tournament too much. And maybe it could be beneficial for CONCACAF to switch it to a 4-year schedule, something more akin to the Copa America or the Euros. But for the millionth time, if the United States are playing in the Copa Americas, I don't care about the Gold Cup. I mean, it was basically for years. It was avoided upset until Mexico. We didn't beat Mexico. I'm very upset we didn't beat Mexico. But I'm not going to lose sleep as a United States men's national team fan losing to Mexico in this nature. And while this tournament was going on the West Coast, the Club World Cup, FIFA's new crown jewel, was happening on the East Coast. This was the first time that the Club World Cup was happening in its expanded state. It was going to feature teams from every continent, 12 from Europe, 6 from South America, 4 from Africa, Asia, North America, and 1 lucky team from New Zealand. These teams were going to qualify based off if they won their respective continent's club championship in the last 4 years, and then using some sort of point system to determine who the next best teams were. There was a rule that unless they directly won the the continent's tournament, that there could only be a maximum of 2 squads from each country. No, that was Europe. That's Europe, because there were 4 Brazilian teams, and there were 3 American. But for some reason, the Europeans were limited to 2. I don't know why that was. I don't know. Yeah, no, for some reason, UEFA was awarded a limited amount of slots, but there could be an infinite amount of Brazilian, American, so on and so forth, which is frankly just because this tournament was full of gimmicks. It was a gimmicky tournament. I mean, Messi's Inter Miami was given a spot because they finished best regular season record in the MLS the year before. It was a convenient out to put Messi into this tournament. And then there was a thing with club ownership, and they had to have a playoff. But ultimately, from UEFA, you had Chelsea and Man City out of England, Inter Milan, Juventus from Italy, PSG, France's sole representative, Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund from Germany, Benfica and Porto from Portugal, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid from Spain, and Red Bull Salzburg out of Austria. The teams out of South America were Boca Juniors and River Plate from Argentina, Botafogo, Flamengo, Fluminense, and Palmeiras out of Brazil. 2 Mexican teams in Monterrey and Pachuca, Inter Miami, Los Angeles FC, and Seattle Sounders FC from the United States. In Africa, you had Esperance de Tunis out of Tunisia, Mamelodi Sundowns out of South Africa, Wydad AC out of Casablanca, Morocco, and then Al Ahly out of Egypt, El Ain out of Abu Dhabi, once we start talking about the Asian teams, Ulsan HD out of South Korea, Al Hilal, Saudi team, and Urawa Red Diamonds out of Japan. I believe it was set to like a maximum of 2 European teams per group, and then 2 teams would get out of every group. I mean, there were just some prizes. Group A, Palmeiras and Inter Miami got out of the group when Porto didn't. Specifically, Inter Miami defeating Porto 2-1 was frankly surprising. Porto not being able to pick up a victory, drawing with Palmeiras and Al Ahly. In Group B, not surprisingly, PSG climbed to the top of that group, but Botafogo out of Brazil, even though they lost to Atletico Madrid through tiebreaker because they beat PSG 1-0 at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, they got through. So it was PSG and Botafogo. Seattle Sounders was the unlucky team in this group. And this is going to be a commonly recurring thing, is how well the Brazilian teams did. This is the one impression. Group C saw Benfica and Bayern Munich advance, while Boca Juniors and Auckland City out of New Zealand, a semi-professional team at that. They were the ones that failed to go through. It was really impressive watching Auckland City draw Boca Juniors, including a goal from Christian Gray, not out of 50 Shades of Grey, the center back who's a teacher for Auckland City score. So that was really cool. And then, Benfica actually topped the group when they defeated Bayern Munich in the 3rd game. Group D saw Flamengo top a group with Chelsea in it. Chelsea also got through. Esperance out of Tunisia and Los Angeles FC did not advance. LAFC only scoring 1 goal against Flamengo. In Group E, Inter Milan topped that group. Monterrey from Mexico advanced as they surprisingly got past River Plate. A 0-0 draw was enough for them to go through, while the Urawa Red Diamonds out of Japan finished dead last. Group F was kind of no surprise. Borussia Dortmund and Fluminense got through, while Mamelodi Sundowns and Ulsan HD out of South Korea did not advance. Borussia Dortmund and the Sundowns actually played a really entertaining 4-3 game in Cincinnati. And then Group G, that's not our final group. Group G, Man City and Juventus went through, while Al Ain and Wydad AC didn't go through. Real Madrid and Al Hilal went through in Group H, while RB Salzburg and Pachuca failed to go through. So to get through the round of 16 real quick, Palmeiras in an all-Brazilian matchup defeated Botafogo 1-0 in extra time. Chelsea defeated Benfica in extra time 4-1 after a late Angel Di Maria penalty sent it to extra time, but Chelsea were able to go through. PSG defeated Inter Miami 4-0 as Messi and Luis Suarez were not able to do anything against the reigning European champions. Bayern Munich got past Flamengo 4-2 in a frankly entertaining matchup where Flamengo actually tied the game up at one point in the 55th minute, but Bayern Munich pulled away in the end. Fluminense pulled off the big upset of the round of 16. Well, one of the big upsets of the round of 16 is they defeated Inter Milan 2-0. I got a little ahead of myself because I forgot that Al Hilal defeated Manchester City 4-3. Game went in the extra time. Erling Haaland had to tie the game up in the 55th minute. It goes in extra time. Koulibaly scores for Al Hilal. Foden gets one in the 104th minute, but then Marcos Leandro gets his second goal of the game. And Al Hilal defeated Manchester City. Real Madrid defeated Juventus, and Borussia Dortmund defeated Monterrey out of Mexico 2-1 to wrap up the round of 16. In the quarterfinals, Fluminense kept on being the best non-European team as they defeated Al Hilal 2-1. Chelsea got past Palmeiras 2-1. PSG defeated Bayern Munich 2-0, and Real Madrid defeated Borussia Dortmund 3-2. Semifinals, Joao Pedro announced himself to Chelsea as they defeated Fluminense 2-0. PSG absolutely dominated Real Madrid early, getting a 3-goal lead by the 24th minute and overall winning 4-0. And then in the Club World Cup final, against what I think everyone was expecting, Chelsea defeated PSG 3-0. Kind of dominantly, too. PSG dominated this possession, especially as the game went on, but 2 Cole Palmer goals in the 22nd minute and the 30th minute, and then a Joao Pedro goal in the 43rd minute. This game was over. PSG really couldn't get anything going in the second half. And, they both teams were starting very strong lineups. Reece James was in the midfield for Chelsea. But I think for the most part, these are as strong as these lineups were going to get. And frankly, I thought PSG was going to dog walk Chelsea. I was wrong. I looked stupid. A lot of people look stupid. Bang, bang, bang. Just like that. It was over. But good for Chelsea. Good for Chelsea. Cole Palmer has a already pretty stellar record in clutch situations. Cold Palmer, nickname, aptly named. But I think the thing with the Club World Cup is not, what happened, but what did we make from it? And it's similar. It's like there's 2 things that I really want to talk about. One is where do we put this trophy for Chelsea? The money's gonna be great. The money's gonna go great for transfers and whatnot. And, believe me, everyone knows Chelsea spent a significant amount of money in the last couple of years. But where, like, if you're a Chelsea fan and you're like, oh, we won the Club World Cup, talking to like an Arsenal fan or a Manchester United fan, or even Man City, who've kind of struggled in the last year or so, where do we put this? Where are we going to put this? It's only going to happen once every 4 years. So it's the rarity of this tournament might give something to it. But if I'm walking down the street and I'm a fan of whoever I'm a fan of, and a Chelsea fan comes up to me and goes, we're champions of the world, I'd just kind of look at him and be like, yeah, you got it. That's all you. Because, the tournament, it felt more like a cash grab than anything. FIFA had to throw so much money at these teams for them to give a crap. It really felt like a lot of the European teams were playing at half pace. Like, they didn't care. They didn't really, really want to be there. As it got later in the competition, obviously everyone wants to win. All these guys have just the instinct to win, to dominate. But, if they were playing a Mexican team or a Brazilian team or any of the teams from Asia, you could tell who was trying harder. The Brazilian teams worked their ass off in every game they played. I can't say the same for the European teams. Eventually, the talent outweighed the effort. And Chelsea, I think they could use this as maybe a momentum to carry them further into this season. They're back in the Champions League this year after winning the Conference League. So that's another trophy. That's another trophy for Maresca, second so far as manager at Chelsea. But it goes back to what I said at the Gold Cup as a United States fan. It goes back to what I said about the Nations League. What's the point of all of this? The tournament felt like a gimmick from FIFA that hates the fact that the Champions League year after year is the most successful tournament in the world. Yes, they have their World Cup every 4 years, but that Champions League is a beast every year, and it gives UEFA so much power and so much money, and it's what I want to watch every year, is the Champions League. The Champions League is the best sporting competition in the world year after year. So this is FIFA's answer, and they know that American money and Saudi money and Brazilian talent can, kind of prop this up. But it was the whole internal monologue that I was having with myself this summer. And that's, are we able to feel football fatigue, soccer fatigue? I mean, at what point is enough enough? It was a busy season, especially someone like I try to watch as many games as possible to do as good of a job on this show. And for a rather long season, where I'm watching 100+ games, if not more. And I love soccer, I do. But the season was exhausting, especially as a fan. And as someone who tries to, create a show for this sport, to turn around and have 3 tournaments this summer in the Nations League, the Gold Cup, and the Club World Cup, where you're like, I don't care. I don't care about the Nations League. Who cares about the semifinals? With the United States playing in the Copa America, who cares about the Gold Cup? And the Club World Cup, what's the point? It's a cash grab. It's a cash grab for FIFA. It's a cash grab for the teams. They didn't sell out the stadiums that well. I mean, yes, some of the bigger games, as you got later in the tournament, you're putting 60, 70,000 seats in a stadium. But Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte only put 20,000 seats in asses in a seat in a round of 16 matchup. 25,000 in their other. 33,000 in Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. That stadium is much bigger than that. 31,000 in Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. That stadium is much bigger. And then there's the issue with the storms and the heat. And I just can't for the life of me understand why, for example, Real Madrid Pachuca, Charlotte, North Carolina, 3 p.m. As someone who lives in the Mid-Atlantic United States, not far from Charlotte, North Carolina, why would you put a sporting event at 3 p.m.? 3 p.m. matches in Miami. 3 p.m. matches in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Nashville. It doesn't make sense. It gets hot in the United States in the summer. It is a hot country. I know we might not be known for our heat, but it is a hot country. Why the hell are you putting these games at 3 p.m.? It storms. It storms all the time. These games need to be at noon or at 9. You want to put a 3 p.m. game, put it in Atlanta. Put it in Minneapolis, where we domed. Put it in Houston, Indianapolis. But if you're going to be in Washington, D.C. or Atlanta or Miami or just these non-dome stadiums, what are we doing? It's so stupid. I mean, I get, you need to make sure that Europe and Asia can watch it at a comfortable time, but they're going to watch it regardless. A Real Madrid fan is going to watch these games regardless, and I hope they learn their lesson going into the World Cup, because it does not matter if the game was at 4 o'clock in the morning. A country is going to watch that game no matter what, whether it's England, Japan, no matter whoever's watching, they're going to watch at 4 p.m. or 4 a.m. So FIFA, for the love of God, needs to be smart with what time they put these games. It's idiotic. And then people are like, oh, the Americans don't know how to throw a tournament. Americans don't know how to throw a tournament. I don't get that. I don't get that. Major League Baseball games don't start at 3. They're at 6 and 7. You got your noon games if you're doing a doubleheader or if it's a travel day. And then you play the game at 7. Because if there's storms, they're probably going to hit around 5. It gives you time, gives you maybe a later start. Or 8. Every game should be at 8. If there's going to be 4 games of the World Cup next year, or 3 games, it should be like a noon East Coast game, like a noon Central Time game, and then a night game. Or maybe because we're 48 teams, there should be 4 games in one day. Stagger. There may be gaps. There may be a 2-hour gap. But in no world should anywhere in the United States, not a dome stadium, be having a game start at 3 p.m. That's just idiotic, ridiculous, stupid. All the above. I don't really see the point. Now, there was one tournament where I didn't feel football fatigue, and then I felt it did matter, and then it should be there, and that was the Women's Euros, a 16-team tournament held every 4 years. Last time was 2022, but COVID pushed everything back. It was hosted in Switzerland, and the host nation got out of Group A with Norway. Norway, a talented team who's really underperformed in the international stage in women's soccer in the last couple of years. Spain and Italy got out of Group B ahead of Belgium and Portugal. Sweden and Germany, unsurprisingly, got out of Group C ahead of Poland and Denmark. And then to wrap it up, in a pretty tough Group D, France and England got through while the Netherlands and Wales were left behind. I know the Netherlands recently made a Women's World Cup final against the United States. Well, I say recently, it was about 10 years ago, but recent enough in the grand scheme of life. Set up a quarterfinals where England got past Sweden on penalties. Italy got past Norway 2-1. Spain defeated the host Switzerland 2-0. France, despite having a one-woman advantage for most of the game, lost to Germany on penalties 6-5 after a 1-1 game. Set up semifinals. Both semifinals won extra time. England played better, did better than Italy. Most of the game went down 1-0 in the 33rd minute, and then it took some heroics from Michelle Aouyiman and then Chloe Kelly in the 119th minute. The same woman who won the Euros 3 years prior, sent England to another final. Spain, the reigning World Cup champions, defeated Germany, and then in the finals, Spain went up in the 25th minute, but Alessia Russo, the Arsenal forward, tied the game up 57th minute, and then I guess this isn't a problem for the England women. They won again in penalties 3-1 in a pretty exciting shootout. Spain missed their last 3 penalties, and for the second time in a row, England are the champions of Europe. That was a pretty entertaining tournament. I know if you were in the United States on the East Coast, it was on during the day for most of the end of June and early July. I thought it was a very entertaining tournament. 3.42 goals per match, which is pretty common. I think women's soccer is typically a little bit of a higher scoring sport. But yeah, no, this is one where I didn't feel the football fatigue. I was looking forward to these matches. Women's football kind of actually has the opposite problem of the men's, where I feel like there is like a glut of international matchups. Euros, though, however, that's big time. We're always going to pay attention to that. And honestly, an impressive result by the England women. You know, Spain's a fantastic team, and for England now to get their second Euros in a row was really good. It was a really good tournament, really entertaining tournament. Just a couple weeks removed now at this point. Well, it's 3 days since the final, but from the thick of it, you know, those are my notes. And that was really to wrap up the 4 tournaments that happened this summer. And that was basically the big conclusion. It was like, well, where's the football fatigue? It's tough. It's so tough because the guys are worn out, the girls are worn out. They're all tired. They're not playing their best soccer. Do we really want to watch the athletes that we love play okay soccer? And people might say out there, oh, if you're really a fan, you'd care. You'd want to watch. You'd watch. It's like, yeah, I'm going to watch. Of course I'm going to watch. But at what point is enough enough? And I do think we may be getting there soon. How soon, I don't know. But we're getting there. It was hard for me to care at certain points this year. But yeah, now it's gonna be August 1st. It's gonna be a Wednesday or Thursday. The transfer window is popping. Fabrizio Romano is firing away the tweets. There have been several transfers that have gone through. There are several that are most likely going to be announced. The Premier League is dominating in terms of signings. If we're going by Euros, 18 of the top 25 signings so far this summer have been by the Premier League, and that's with knowing that, you know, Alex Isaac and most likely Benjamin Sesko are going to go to Premier League clubs. 4 La Liga clubs, or signings, 3 Real Madrid, 1 Atletico, 2 German signings, and 1 Saudi. None of the big Saudi teams have made a signing so far this summer. Matteo Retugi from Atalanta went to Al Qadsiya for 68.25 million euros. But yeah, the Premier League have the top 5 signings. Arsenal's Zubimendi at 70 million. Manchester United spending 74 and 75 on Mateus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo. Ekitike going to Liverpool. Florian Wirtz going to Liverpool. Alex Isaac probably going to Liverpool. Some big signings for Liverpool. Big signings for Arsenal. I mean, Victor Gyökeres finally getting that striker they've so long craved. One of my favorite signings of the summer actually is Mohamed Kudus to Tottenham for 63.8 million euros. I know it's a little hefty. Transfermarkt's got him as a guy that's worth about 45 million, but I just thought every time I watched him for West Ham last year, he was such a fantastic player to watch. So we'll see. Maybe he'll turn out for Tottenham. I know Tottenham was linked with Morgan Gibbs-White out of Nottingham Forest for the longest time. Fabrizio was reporting that the deal was close as done, but it didn't work out. So I don't know what's going on there. If Tottenham's going to look to sign more attacking figures. Yeah, I mean, just Premier League, a lot of in a Premier League. I think this one just broke today that Bayern Munich signing Luis Diaz for 70 million euros. I don't know if Diaz is worth 70 million at 28 years old. I've never really been the biggest Luis Diaz fan, but Liverpool need to, make some money, and that's a good way of doing that. Yeah, I mean, Man City got their signings done early. Guys like Ryan Cherky, Ryan Aït-Nouri, Tijani Reinders. And then obviously Man City spent big in the winter transfer window as well. Manchester United going heavy on attacking. I don't know if that was the way to go, but frankly, I don't trust anything Manchester United does. Controversial Madueke to Arsenal for 56 million euros. He's a young kid. He's got numbers comparable to like Martinelli or Trossard. So in that regards, it's probably an upgrade for Arsenal. And he's homegrown, which will help with the Champions League and Premier League registration as they look for depth. But I think he's a little unproven. And 56 million is a hefty price to pay. My favorite signing this summer probably is going to be Frimpong from Bayer Leverkusen to Liverpool for only 40 million euros. That one's I think a steal. I think he was so instrumental in Bayer Leverkusen's perfect season 2 years ago and the success they've had since then. I'm a little worried about that team losing Xabi Alonso, and they've got what's his face from Manchester United, Erik ten Hag, because I think Granit Xhaka is left, Frimpong's left, Florian Wirtz is left. They've brought in Jarell Kwanzaa, and I don't really. They've made some other signings. They've signed some young guys. Mark Flecken, the American Malik Tillman from PSV for 32 million euros. But I don't know. You get a little worried. If you get outside the top 25 signings, Jude Bellingham's little brother went to Borussia Dortmund for 30 million euros. Some of the Saudi teams, they finally start to show up in the list. Joao Felix went to Al Nassr to play with Cristiano Ronaldo for 30 million. Theo Hernandez to Al Hilal for 25 million. Juventus, I think a smart 32 million signing for Francisco Conceição. Matthias Tell to Tottenham for 35 million. Don't hate that. So yeah, I mean there's obviously going to be a lot. The American Johnny Cardoso going from Real Betis to Atletico Madrid for 24 million. So yeah, there's still a lot to watch in the transfer saga. That's just kind of me wrapping everything up that's happened so far. So that's basically the summer as a whole. That's from the beginning of June to the end of July, the last 2 months. There's been 4 tournaments. There's been a plethora of transfers, some storylines, me suffering from soccer fatigue and not wondering how to deal with it. The current season's actually started, which is crazy. Champions League qualifying rounds did start a few weeks ago. I think the second qualifying round has already happened. There's only 2 more rounds before we know every team that's going to be in the league phase. Like teams like Rangers and RB Salzburg and Dynamo Kiev, pretty big names, have already, had European matchups. Feyenoord and Fenerbahce are playing next week. Nice and Benfica, these are big teams. So it'll be exciting. So we're getting the season. The season will be here before you know it. And then we'll really get in the thick of it. That's when we'll really, really start talking. I believe the Premier League season will start. I know it off the top of my head. So it's the weekend of the 17th. You got a big matchup week 1, Manchester United versus Arsenal. So what I'll probably do is probably another podcast in a week, maybe a week and a half at the end of the week. Hopefully maybe let it come out around maybe prior to the season starting. Do a little predictions. See how bad I do at the end of the year. Kind of see where every team's at going into this year. Because, yeah, some teams are starting to play their preseason. I know, Arsenal is in Singapore. Manchester United were in the Summer Series. Tottenham's in Hong Kong. Liverpool's in Japan, I think. So teams are pretty spread out, already coming back, especially the teams that weren't in the Club World Cup. And, yeah, that's really all I got. I just wanted to sum it up and kind of some of my complaints. I don't really know how I'm going to clip these. Try to make some TikToks, some Instagram Reels. But yeah, make sure to follow on social media at Talk Soccer to Me on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. And this hopefully will be my first video where I get a kind of interactive YouTube video. I'm trying to edit it. So that might come out a day or 2 after the Spotify, and we'll release it, and we'll have pictures Not my face, not my pretty face, but we'll have pictures, we'll have something. So hopefully get that going. And yeah, no, I mean, this really wasn't, anything groundbreaking for me here. Just recapping some of my issues, kind of where I am with the United States men's national team. But I am uber, super duper excited for the season to start up again. I can't wait. I'm itching for some proper club soccer. And yeah, we're like less than 3 weeks away. So it'll be here before you know it. Thank you to everyone for listening. If you made it this far, I love you. And have a great rest of your week.